Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Rantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Go Ramanande Hari Hari Bo. So I'm probably correct that the class finishes at 7:30. 7:30. You got 34 minutes, 34 verses, a few stories. So my name is Nityananda Chandra Das from Dallas, Texas, originally from Honolulu, Hawaii. And when I was 14 years old, I had a lot of questions. And a friend of mine, she was 13, and she received one of Srila Prabhupada's books from a taxi driver. And she was chanting japa every day, and she would make a garland every day. It was Hawaii. And so you just go to walk out the door and pick the nice, what do they call them? I think they even call it, there's a Sanskrit name, kadamba, or there's nice, one of the flowers you hear described in the Bhagavad Gita, they just grow everywhere there. And so we'd make a garland every day for her picture of Srila Prabhupada. She was 13, she would make prasadam, and this was all on her own. She lived with her grandparents. She didn't live with her parents. I don't know the story behind that. She lived with her grandparents. She was very independent. And back then I used to, on the summer times, I would spend the evenings with my friends. I would, sleep over at my friend's house. So this was a friend of mine. And so we went out there. Some of my friends, we'd go to the beach and we'd spend late night evenings talking about aliens, ghosts, Bhagavad Gita. So we had a lot of far out discussions, but she always had something very intelligent to add to the conversation, something concrete, something. So she was talking about the universal form. So you can see the sun and the moon as his eyes, and the trees like the hairs on his body, and the rivers as his veins, and the rainbow as the colors of his dress. Wow, this is really interesting. I grew up in classical American family with a Christian background, but I was never very much interested in that, and I had questions because I had a sister who passed away when she was 2, and the question is, if God is all loving, all powerful, all knowing, then how can there be these inequalities that exist? What's your name? Ramya. So Ramya walks into a grocery store, and the cashier looks at her and just grabs her by the hair and pins her down. How do you feel? You happy about it? No, not happy. She's very humble, so she doesn't have whatever comes. But and to add to that, you look as you're being pinned down. The manager, his door is open, and he's just watching. And how does that feel? So you just walked in. So so many people take birth in this world, and so many things happen. We don't have equal social circumstances, economic circumstances, even equal religious opportunities. So the cashier, that is who? Prakriti, that is nature. And who's the boss? That would be God himself, the manager is. So why is it happening? Now, one piece of information gives a whole perspective to the situation. Any guess? Ramya, is that correct? Ramya was shoplifting the day before. She was taking some yen. So if you had been there before, then there's a whole context. Now, it's not the cashier's fault that she is being arrested. It is something she had done from her past visit. But if you just walk in, then there's no context for that. So I was very happy to get intelligent explanations to these questions that I had. And at 16, I moved to Portland, Oregon, and I was looking for the temple for some time. It took some time to find it. There was no Google, there was no internet, and it wasn't in the white pages, yellow pages, or anything like that. But you would sometimes see book distributors on the street, And I'd ask him. Now back then I had a mohawk. So one shika, I had 5 shikas. Making straight up. I had my neck, Tulsi beads, and I say, Hare Krishna. I have a Hare Krishna. Are you? I said, where's the temple? They would all say, I don't know, I'm just passing through. And eventually one day I found a devotee that knew the temple. He gave me an address and I started going there. And I was going there, eventually I started going all the time. But the temple was run by an older couple. They were just about 70 years old, some Prabhupada disciples, wonderful temple and program. And everybody else was around 40 years old. There was no teenager, there was nobody, I was 17, there was nobody that age. But one day she came and she said, there's going to be some changes and you're going to like it. So when were you living there?
I wasn't living there, I was visiting my sister at that time.
Oh, okay.
So this was after the 5 sheep.
Oh, yeah. What year was this?
Oh God, so she was like grade school, year 4, so for maybe 2000-ish, somewhere.
That was in Saffron?
Yeah.
Oh, and you were 4?
Somewhere around there.
Oh my God.
And her sister.
Wow. So the Mataji who was running the temple, she said there's going to be some changes and you're going to like it. So 30 brahmacharis moved to Portland, Oregon. And they said she told me that they're going to open a new temple. We're going to retire. We're going to open a new temple. So there was 30 brahmacharis. So of course the kirtan was, and we were afraid the floor would cave in. It was such actually on Janmashtami they had a kirtan and the porch on the second floor broke off the house. So many people raging kirtan. So it was a lot of fun. I knew that I could do, because I was going to temple, but I didn't know what can I do next. What else can I do? And when I saw all these brahmacharis, I knew, okay, this is what I can do. And then from there, ended up in Brooklyn. We had to travel in a second. We'll get to that story. So Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9. Does anybody know the name of chapter 9?
Most confidential knowledge.
Most confidential knowledge. And what's the Sanskrit title? There's a book that starts with the same title. Raja Vijaya. Raja Vijaya. King of knowledge, most confidential knowledge. And so Raj means? King. So do you know that chapter can be divided into 4 sections? And those 4 sections make an acronym, and the acronym is King. K-I-N-G. So if you want to remember the topical thread of chapter 9, all you have to remember is King. So everybody can repeat after me. Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll rest you with this one. So it starts off like this. So, Atha Navamudhyaya, at the beginning of the 9th chapter. And Krishna says, Shri Bhagavan Vachamikratsi. Rajavijay Rajakriti. Idam tu te viyatamam prabhakshami yanasuyave jnanavigyana sahitam yajgatva mokshasheshu. But Rajavijay Rajaguyam pavitam idamuttamam pratyaksha bhagamam dharminam susukam kartam avayam. Ashadana Purusha Dharmasya Separantapa Praptamam Nivartante Nityu Samsara Vardhani. So that's letter K. So he says, I will now speak to you this most confidential knowledge. Because Arjuna, you are anasuya. What is anasuya? Non-envious. Knowing this knowledge and realization, you will be free from ashubhat. You've seen that on the top of the door? Shubhat. So shub means auspiciousness. So ashubhat, you'll be free from all inauspiciousness. So it is the Rajavijja, king of knowledge. Rajaguyam, king of secrets. Pavitram, it is pure. Idam uttamam, and supreme. Pratyaksha, Prakshaksha, Bhagamam dharmyam. It is direct perception. It is the perfection of religion because it gives direct perception. Just like when you eat food, what happens to you? Number one, you get satisfied, some taste. Number two, nourishment, and something goes away, hunger goes away. So bhakti parineshno bhava raptir anyat chacharika chisha eka kala trishti pushti shukmaya anugasham. Three things happen when you serve Krishna. You get this happiness, and you get some awareness, paramatma anubhav, and you get virakti, you get detachment. That's actually the real test. Because someone can say, oh, I'm taking intoxication, and that is, I'm experiencing spiritual bliss. But then the real test is, are you becoming detached from material endeavors? And that's only found through bhakti. So this is K. So and number 3, ashradana, those who do not have faith in this bhakti, dharma sesaprantam praptamam, mityuma samsara, they remain in this material world. So this is, K stands for knowledge. And so Krishna is glorifying, he's giving kind of an introductory to what he's going to talk. He's glorifying what he's going to speak about. So then I is K-I. I stands for inconceivable relationships. How Krishna is within everything, and he is completely aloof from everything. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtinamastani sababhutani nachaham teshtavashtata nachamastani bhutani pashtameva yoga maishram bhutabritana bhutashto mamatma bhutabhavana yata kashtastato nityam vaidu sarvatago mahantata sarvani bhutani mastani padaya sarvabhutani kamteya prakatiyanti mamakam kapakshaye panastani kapalo vishachamnaham prakatam shvama vashtavya vishajami punah Udramam idam krishnam avasham bhakatir vashat nachamatani karmani nivadananti dhananjaya dasanatman asinam ashaktatesha karmashu mayadakshena prakriti suyate chacharacharam hetunanena kuntaya jigati parivartate. So now he is explaining this inconceivable quality that he has, that he can be controlling things and at the same time aloof. He says, I'm within everything because I'm the cause of everything. But also I have no attachment, so I'm not there as well. My mamakam, my form is not actually in that. I'm not actually present because I am independent. For example, if you control something, you have some project, then you're connected to it. But Krishna is not connected. He is creating billions of universes, and when he destroys them, he doesn't shed one tear. Right? When we lose our pen, we're like, oh, where's my pen? But billions of universes come in and billion universes go, and he is not shedding one tear. Because he is not attached to the material affairs. He has his lila, this is for his opportunity for souls to enjoy separately from him, but also, he also uses it, it's a facility for Department of Corrections. Yeah. You're all in the Department of Corrections. Some of us used to wear the orange outfits. I guess that's like, I don't know. So, he explains that. Now, Prabhupada gives a very good example of this. He said, I am just a simple person. He said, but this whole society is being run because of my disciples' love for me. And all this ISKCON is going on, sadhana is going on, this is going on, offering is going on, this is going on, simply because of their love for Srila Prabhupada. So in the same way, Krishna, all the devatas are all working under his direction. Mayatam idam sarva, Mayalakshena Prakriti, by his supervision, his adya, his eyes are looking over everything. But he is not actually becoming entangled, he is not attached. He is udasinat man asinam, he is seated as neutral. So this is that verses 4 through 10. He's talking about this, how he is within everything and at the same time aloof. All the energies at the time of dissolution enter back into him. And kalpakshayipanastani, kalpa though, again, at the beginning of the kalpa, Vrishikam, again creates, but he is not attached. And he gives an example, he says like air is flowing through the ether, the space. Now one may ask, well, he just said it's totally inconceivable. How do you get an example of something inconceivable? Aren't you not making it conceivable by your very example? Now he gives something that is unconscious, air, space, not conscious. And therefore, space by its very nature is detached. But there's no example other than Krishna himself of something influencing, controlling, containing something and being aloof. So then what's the next letter? N. So N stands for non-devotional worship. Avajananti mamudha manushuddham ashrita parabhava janato mamabhuta maheshwaram mogashmava karmano vidyana vichetasa rakshasam chaiva prakriti mohin shritaha mahatmanastu namaparta dhaira prakritim ashrita bhajante atmana sogyadunam amayam satatam kitayanto mam yatantascha vidadagataha namashantasamam bhaktya nityananda Yanagena Chapanye Jantamam Upasate Ekapena Pripakmena Bakuda Vishatomaka Kratu Yagya Swadahama Shidama Chahama Mega Jamahama Nirahamutam Pitahamasya Jagata Mata Data Pitamaha Vedam Pakita Mukara Vitsanya Eva Chakatir Bata Pubu Shakshini Vasharam Rusurit Prabhava Painam Stana Nijabijam Avyam Tapyaham Maham Varsham Nigranam Yuchajami Chamitish Chaiva Nikrisha Sarasasham Arjuna Chadajamam Soma Bhuta Papa Yagya Swagatam Paparite Vitam Mashadrashan Nalokana Shanti Didam Divide Lokogam Detam Mukva Swagatam Vishalam Shine Punya Madhya Lokam Vishanti Lokcharinam Anuprapana Ghatam Gatam Kama Lavante. So that's verse 11 through 22, and that is non-devotional worship. So he says, those who avajananti mamura, those who are fools. Now, Krishna uses this word very often in Bhagavad Gita. We wonder if people even read the book. He's saying so many harsh things. And many times he says vimudha, he says royal edition. That's like the special S-class version of the fool. One devotee was distributing books at the O'Hare airport. And some Indian gentleman who was a Christian Indian. Now, of all, like in Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, of fishes, I am the shark. So of all antagonist Christians, the Indians are the most antagonistic. The ones who are can be sometimes rude and mean. The ones who are, and regular Christians are fine, but those who are sometimes can be antagonistic are Indian Christians. I don't know why. You can tell me. I'm not familiar. So he was there, and he was trying to stop them from talking to people and showing the books. And they kept on following the devotees, and like whenever they say, "Excuse me," they say, "Get away! This is the devil!" Blah, 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 and trying to interrupt the Sankirtan. And so at one point, the devotee said, "You are a Buddha," and he said, "How dare you!" And he ran to the security guard. And he said, "This guy said I was a Buddha." And this kid, "What?" And he was so upset, he was making such a fuss, the security guard told him to get out of here. But you see, Krishna's using this heavy word. But he says, fools can't understand how Krishna is come in a human-like form. oftentimes when we were trying to have a very universal vision of God, we say, well, God must be impersonal because all this religion saying this thing, that. So it's just got to be just everything. But it's like saying the sun is cold. What comes out of the sun? Hot sunlight. And you know something about the cause when you examine the effect. So if Brahman is the cause of people, then Brahman has to be a person. Para Brahman. Cannot be impersonal. Has both. Both exist simultaneously. Just like someone may look at the painting and say, that's a beautiful painting, and it sure is. But someone else can take a microscope and say, no, that's not a painting, that is a molecule. It's an atom. So there's synthesis and analysis of the same information. So both are existing, the impersonal and personal aspect. So Krishna says those who are foolish, they can't understand. I'm the maintainer and the Lord of all. And those who do not have this faith, then what they hold on to, they moga karma, moga jnana, mogasha, all those things, they can't hold on to their knowledge. The next life, you have to again learn 1 + 1, 2 + 2, all these things. What's the next verse? That's the one before. Mahatmana. Then he contrasts the great souls. They're fully fixed in devotional service. And they take shelter of the Supreme Lord. And what do? Satatam. They're always chanting. With firm faith and conviction. Then he starts to describe other people who worship him, but not directly. Not just the people who reject him, but those who worship him. Those who worship as one without a second, are divided into many, are the Vishvata, the universe. So he describes the universal form. He says, I'm the light, I'm the fire, I'm the ghee. So he's saying like all the different elements of the sacrifice, or I'm the giver, the person who sends forth and withholds the rains. So he's talking about different ways to see him throughout the universe. And then he describes those who worship various devatas, which is very popular. Worshipping devatas, very popular. So Krishna says those who worship devatas properly can enjoy somaras. Drink the somaras in their next life, or in this life, and then live very long. In America even we have movies about somaras. Indiana Jones is looking for the somaras, So this way. But what does he say? He says, Shine punya marte lokam vishanti. That when their credit card runs out, you have a karma credit card. Punya karma, shine punya karma, shine punya marte lokam vishanti. That you can develop pious credits by worshipping these devatas, and then go on a nice cruise ship to the heavenly planets. Now, have any of you been on a cruise ship? And why are you still here?
My credit ran out.
Your credit ran out. So you can't stay there. So devata, you cannot stay in the planet of the devatas. Now, Rabbi, we're going to give you $1 million. Are you happy? Yes. We'll give it to you for 1/1,000,000th of a second. Then we take it back. So you go to the planets of the devatas, you enjoy for some time, but in the light of eternity is nothing. So you can't keep it. So what is the gain? Not much to hold on to. So then next comes G. Glories of Bhakti. Alright, a little overlap here. Very nice verse, very sweet verse. Now, any of you heard of Arjuna the Brahmin? You heard the story of Arjuna the Brahmin? You probably heard this story. There was once a Brahmin named Arjuna who liked to study Bhagavad Gita, but he came across this section where Krishna says, Vahami. Now, in Sanskrit, when you say ami in the verb, that means you're doing it. Right? Pibhami, I am drinking. Khadami, I'm eating. Likhami, I'm writing. Pashami, I am seeing. So he says, Vahami, I will carry. Now, this devotee was thinking, now Krishna, he is a very important person. I am one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, German godbrother. Prabhupada had a German godbrother. He went to India and he was trying to figure out who is supreme. There's so many temples. He said, oh, Krishna, he doesn't have a job. So he must be in charge. Everybody is working for somebody. Where do you find the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar industry? He's not in the office, he's on the golf course. So Krishna is out with his friends. He has nothing to do. He doesn't work for anybody. Except for sometimes he brings his shoes for Nanda Maharaj. But he does it for his own pleasure. So in the same way, he's saying that Krishna personally is bringing for his own devotees. So he said, no, it must be his Shaktis, not directly Krishna. So he took his instrument that he used on the palm leaf and he scratched that out. And he put another word in. He said, this must be a mistake. Let me adjust this. This is not parampara. It's the opposite of parampara. And so he went out bhiksha, begging. He was a Brahmin, bhiksha. Patan, patan, yajan, yajan, dana, pratigraha. 6 duties of the Brahmana is to read and teach others what they have learned, to worship and engage others in worship, and to accept charity and then distribute charity. And so he was out accepting charity. And while he was out, 2 beautiful boys came to his house. One very blackish and one very whitish. And they had on their shoulders with sticks heavy loaded with rice, ghee, sabji, all different ingredients for cooking a wonderful meal. All different vegetables, grains, everything. Atta, everything was there. And the wife said, oh, very nice. You my husband? Yes. But please take this quickly. We do not want to see your husband. He is a cruel man. What? He beat us. And he even scratched my tongue. What kind of person does that? And so when the husband came home, she had a rolling pin in her hand. She was waiting for him. And she had already eaten. And that's not in the culture. You wait for him to come home. And so she said, how dare you beat those beautiful boys? He said, what? You beat them. Don't try to lie. I saw the marks. One beautiful blackish boy and one whitish boy. He said, oh my God, this is Krishna. I shouldn't have done that. Scratching on the Bhagavad Gita. So he realized, Krishna showed him, I will carry. Now, we have to be careful what we desire, because Krishna may fulfill our desires. Whatever you want, he gives. And he said the story, you want a wife, you go on book distribution, Krishna will give you a wife, everything is given. For example, I was standing on the streets of Portland, Oregon, in the rain and sleet, icy rain, and I was shooting books. You squeeze the water out of the book and then you show them the book. You're all day long standing out in the rain because it rains for 8 months straight. And we're there 6 days a week, out in the rain. And I was thinking, it would be nice if I had a jacket, waterproof, something, so I'm just not soaked all the way through. And within 5 minutes, one gentleman came up to a young guy and he said, I have this snowboard jacket. It's got a little cut here, but it's worth like $300. You want it? I said, oh, yes, thank you. And one day I was thinking, oh, it'd be good if I had a watch. And the watch came. And I was thinking, oh, it'd be good if I had a wife. Okay. So I was shooting books at Times Square subway. And here she walks up. Now she's gone full circle. Her hair is colored again. But she had blue hair. And I told her, I said, I used to look like you with the spikes and the colored hair. And she said, well, all my life I wanted to become like you guys. I wanted to become a nun and dedicate my life towards God. I'm like, wow, well, you should read these books. They're very, I'm very interested in reincarnation and karma. And I said, well, you should come to our dinner on Sundays. She said, no, I'm a vegetarian. And I said, no, the food is vegetarian. She said, no, I really do not like food with garlic and onions. She said, no, the food has good. She might not have believed me, and so we invited her to the feast and we took her information. And so when Ram Navami came, we called everyone who met were interested. And she came for a tour. And then she started coming to the temple. Then one day she asked, is there something in the morning? I said, yeah, but you live in the Bronx. Now, if you catch a train from 171st Street, first it takes her 20 minutes to get to that train stop. If you catch a train from 171st Street to Brooklyn Temple at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., it's all local stops. So it takes 2 hours. So she would leave 171st Street, her place, to get to the 171st Street subway at 2 a.m. every morning, to go to the Mangal Arati, chant 16 rounds, attend the group puja, morning class, prasadam, book distribution, then work a 10-hour shift at an ice cream shop. And she would donate about $2,000 a month. She would she'd give whatever she would give to her mom, and then she'd just give us the rest. And so I sold her a Bhagavatam set, sold her a Chaitanya Charitamrita set. It's in my house now. Investment. And so she was coming to Mangal Arati every day and then working a 10-hour shift. And so after 8 months, we told her, we said, we have to talk to you. You are a nun. You said you wanted to become a nun. That's what you're doing. So you should move into the temple full time. You'll have a very wonderful time. And that's what she did. And she said it was the best time of her life. Not being married to me, but that time in the ashram. Best time of her whole life. So if you have young kids, you can tell them that spend some time doing full-time seva, traveling. Get away from the house and school and all that stuff. Get away and spend some time traveling and engage fully in the service of Krishna. Because there is a little bit different experience if you can have nothing else to worry about except for how are you doing in your Krishna consciousness. Then you can have a much more profound experience. And then when troubles arise, you can remember, oh, but I remember how I felt and where my mind was at that point. So I know this works. And so that's Ananyashchindayanam. Everything is added on. And as there is a Hare Krishna hip-hop rap artist named Sri Kalaji. Anybody heard of him? He's very good. He's very talented. And sometimes devotees will do some music and they'll be okay in the Hare Krishna circle. But he's actually very talented. He does very well in all circles. And so his latest song is called Added On. And the chorus goes, for tomorrow take no thought, from where you get your cloth. Seek ye the kingdom of, and all things are added on. So that's Ananyashchindayanam. All Vahamya, everything will become added on simply by serving Krishna. He takes care of the rest. So, we got 10 seconds for the try to Ananyashchindayanam. Ye panyade latha bhakta yajante shalayan yatatte pramamamit kunteya jati vidhi purvakam aham hisar yagyanam muktacha pravevicha natumamave janati tavanascha saryanti yanti deva pita devan pita priti yanti pritivita bhutayanti bhuteja yanti mam yajina bhimam bhadram pushram phalam toyam yome bhakta prachati taraham bhakta prahita mashnami priyatapana yankaro shira ashnashi yanchoho siddhasyat yatapasya simante tarak purasmarapanam Shiva Shiva Palayva Mokshase Khan Vandanai Sanyasa Yoga Yukta Namamo Ashase Samaham Samabhuteshu Name Dveshti Nosti Napriya Yeva Janti Tamam Bhakta Maiteshu Chapyaham Apichetsudaracharo Bhajite Mamananya Vaksaro Eva Samantavya Samyak Vito Hisaha Shri Prabhuvatmi Dharmatma Swashantim Nigachati Kutya Pratijani Hi Name Bhakta Pranashate Mamhi Pratak Yashatya Devi Shri Papayonaha Shri Vaishishata Shujas Teginam Paramitam Manakbhava Mabhaktam Mamyaji Mamaskuru Mameva Sati Udaiva Manmanam Parayanaha Om Tatsariti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supana Sastru Brahmamadhyayam Yoga Sastri Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Rajavich Rajaguru Yoga Navamo Jayaha. So I'm trying to do a little summary there. I had some pointers if people want to know how to learn verses. I had some. I suggest don't learn important verses. Don't learn important verses because and you can do it. I'm not really suggesting not to do that. But if you want to learn something, learn a string, a whole chapter. Because to hold on to a verse, you have to use it. First, that means you gotta have a brain. And a lot of us don't have brains. And you also have opportunities. You need to be able to speak about it. But any fool can sing a song. So this that I wrapped off is a 3-minute song. It takes 3.5 minutes to chant 34 verses. It takes 2 minutes to chant 20 verses, chapter 15. Chapter 7, another 3 minutes. You can. So if you learn a chapter, it takes some work, but you become pushed forward because you realize you can do it. Some devotees sometimes learn verses, but then just the fact that they realize, oh, it's not sticking, they stop. Just that the fact that it doesn't stick holds them back from learning more. So one day I was walking around Bhakti in Portland, Oregon. I saw these 12-year-old Hindu kids chanting chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita at a cultural fair, and I was thinking, if they can do it, I can do it. And so we can all do it. It's actually, it's true though. If you just, like for example, some of us may have an RT, something that we do regularly, even if you do it only once a week, those verses will stick with you. You can give it a try. And there's a book, Bhagavad Gita in acronyms by Sutapadas in London. That will help you remember the whole thread, like what's the summary of each section of verses. So after saying Anayashtamam, he says that he is the ultimate beneficiary of the sacrifice, and those who worship him will come to him. Those who worship demigods, ghosts, and spirits, and forefathers, they go to those places where those beings reside. But those who worship him go back to him, and those who go back to Krishna never have to return to this world. And to how to worship Krishna, he says you just offer him a leaf, a fruit, a flower, water. It's so easy. He says the ingredient twice: bhakti, devotion. And whatever you do, he continues, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, do that as an offering unto him. Shubhar Shabbat Balev Eva Moksha Se Karma Bandhanai. In this way, you're free from all bondage. Sannyasa Yoga, this is called the Sannyas Yoga. Sannyasa Yoga Vimuktatma, Vimuktamama Vaishya, you're free from all entanglement simply by doing everything for Krishna. That is like the reformed prisoner. You have completely reformed the mentality that brought you to this place. That's why we come to the temple to serve. We free ourselves from the mentality that brought us to this place. And then he says, Samaham, I'm equal to everyone. No one is my friend, no one is my enemy. Now he's speaking in that section as Paramatma. But in the second section, he's speaking as Bhagavan. He says, but those who worship me with love, I'm a friend in them, and they are a friend in me. And this next verse, Api Chetsudarachara, is very, very sweet and very potent. And it's very good for relationships. Would you like to hear it? Okay, because I know we're over the time. You want to hear the sweetness of this verse? Okay, so he says, if my devotee is very bad, badly behaved. What does achar mean?
Behavior.
Your behavior. Prachar is what you're speaking, but we want to know what is your achar, what is your behavior. He says durachar, durachar, very badly behaved. If my devotee is very badly behaved, you must consider him sadhu, a saint. What? Arjuna is thinking, what are you talking? This crazy nonsense. How can your badly behaved devotee be sadhu? Sadhu eva. Certainly. Sadhu eva samanthavya samyag vyavishito hi sada. He must be fixed in this. Now, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, who's one of the commentators in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada took a lot of inspiration from our acharyas that his parampara is passing down. Two of them are Baladev Vidyabhushan and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. Baladev Vidyabhushan's purports are almost identical with Srila Prabhupada's purports. Most of the content he's bringing that back to us directly from Baladev Vidyabhushan. And Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's purports as well. But this purport from Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is very sweet. So in Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur's purport, he presents Purva Paksha. This is like refutations. Kind of like if you know your daughter very well, right? So she may say something, and you may understand all the different things that are going on in your mind, and you may say something to address all those things that were unsaid, just because you.
The term for that.
I think Purvaksha is like.
No, anyways, okay.
So there's the first part. If you give me a second, I'll just read you what he says at that. So that's okay. All right?
Yeah.
All right. Everybody's still awake. That's good. There's a special mantra to help insomnia. Do you know the mantra?
Yeah, it started out as a different.
No. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And how do you wake everyone up? Okay, so this is very sweet, and I'll go right to it. So Krishna is most intelligent. So his verse is answering so many different doubts within one statement. And that's how the purport is showing how the verse is answering so many different doubts in one statement with this internal conversation. So Arjuna has a little doubt. He's saying you liberate, you give yourself to devotees, but your non-devotees. He says like you're like a kalpavriksha, but not really, because a kalpavriksha does not dislike those who are against his worshippers. You know, kalpavriksha gives, but not only does Krishna gives to his devotees, but he is against those who harm his devotees. Like under Sringadev, he said, "I will destroy Hiranyakashipu for hurting my devotee." His attachment is not just giving; he has deep attachment, and that attachment is actually not a fault; it is a decoration. So, Krishna, this is the purport. My attachment to my devotee is my very nature. That attachment does not decrease, even if my devotee commits wrong, for I make him come to the highest standard. If someone with bad conduct, addicted to violence, thievery, or adultery, sudurachar, worships me, and worships no one except me, and does not follow any other process like karma or jnana, and has no other desire than my desire, ananyabhak, he is my devotee, sadhu. Now, oftentimes there are different definitions of pure devotee. One definition of pure devotee is one who has faith in the process of bhakti. They may be a neophyte, but they're in the process of Krishna bhakti. mixing with a little bit of karma, a little bit of jnana. They're a beginner and they have full of faults, but they have faith in Krishna Bhakti. But considering his bad conduct, how is he a devotee? He is to be respected, mantalya, as a devotee, because of his devotee qualities. It is a command, not doing so is an offense. My order is the authority. So Arjuna, should he be considered a devotee in that portion he worships you, and a non-devotee in the portion that he commits adultery? No. He should be considered a devotee in all of his parts. You should not see his bad qualities at all. Now, Mother Mahabhagavat, that I went to her temple in Portland, Oregon, I told you about, her son passed away at 44 years old. He had lived a life of doing intoxicants, and therefore he didn't live very long. And so I attended his funeral. I knew him just a little bit, but I knew her much more. And so at the funeral, she came up to me and she said, I know his life, but at this moment, I can't think of anything wrong he has done. The only thing I can remember is his devotional service. And that is actually Krishna's vision. He's not interested in all our nonsense, but he is very interested in our devotional service. He is like a magnanimous person. The miser is very easy to point out faults. And we're in America. It's our daily pastime. It is our national hobby to criticize others, to talk about others. But Krishna is very different. He is not Kripana, he's Brahmana. He is very generous in his opinion of others. Like the word Shudra comes from Shud, means to complain. And don't we all complain a lot? We may say, I'm a Brahmana, but we all complain so much. So Brahmana is very generous in his opinion of others, looking for the good and trying to bring out that good, to fan it. He is completely convinced, now Krishna continuing, Samyak Vyasita. He makes a splendid resolution. I will go to hell for all my sinful actions, which are hard to give up, but I will not give up dedicated worship of Krishna. The next verse continues. So Shikram, very quickly he becomes a righteous person. I will make him so. Now, if someone is dirty and they're in the shower, can we call them dirty? We may be very pukka, but we are not in the shower, then we are they're more potentially clean than us. So the bhakta is like a mango in the beginning, sour, hard, but leave it on the tree and it turns soft and sweet. So Arjuna says, how can you accept the worship of such a sinful person? How can you eat the food and drink offered by a heart contaminated with lust and anger? Very quickly becomes righteous. The present is used, not the future, to express the fact that having committed sin, by remembering me, he becomes repentant and very quickly becomes righteous. Oh, unfortunate I am. There is no one as low as I, bringing bad name to the devotees. Repeatedly, he feels completely disgusted. Or the present tense can indicate in the future that he'll develop righteousness fully. For even right now, it exists in a subtle form. For after taking medicine, though the destructive effects of fever or poison remains for some times, one is not considered to be in a serious situation. Thus, with the entrance of bhakti in his mind, sinful actions are not considered serious. The traces of sin, such as lust and anger, should be considered insignificant, like the biting of a toothless snake. Thus, he attains complete cessation from lust and anger. So Arjuna says, well, if he becomes good from practicing bhakti, then I could accept that. But what if he's like that till he dies? Like he's just a jerk his whole life. And he's, not a very nice person. What's his position? So now the Lord actually begins to raise his voice. He says, my devotee is never destroyed. At the time of death, he does not fall. Arjuna, you declare this. My devotee never perishes. So someone who is a lover of God, Krishna will help that person. this life, next life, they will somehow become rectified. Now, why did he ask Arjuna to declare? Because Krishna sometimes bends his words to protect his devotee, but Arjuna's word will be like set in stone. So he says, this bhakti is for everyone. Shriya Vaishya Satha Shrudas. Doesn't matter if one's a lady, one is even a businessman. Vaishya, anybody. What to speak of the priest and the saintly kings, everybody can take to this process. And it is very simple. He sums it up at the end. Man mana, always think of me. Now, anybody here always thinking of Krishna every single moment? I don't know. Not me. And he says, you can take this verse as different levels as well. Bhava Mad Bhakto, become my devotee. Practice this process of sadhana bhakti. Chant 16 rounds, take guru, get initiated, follow the process. Phenomenal. I don't have time for that. Then he says, Mam Yahaji, then worship me. Offer incense, have a deity of me. Offer incense every day. Look glass of water and say, hey, bud, you know how much incense costs? It is very expensive these days. And he says, okay, at least Mam Naskuru, offer your obeisances unto me. And this way you'll surely come to me. So at least we can do that. Sometimes we do the don't have to bend down, but yeah, whatever we can do. So that is chapter 9. Thank you very much for your invitation and your kind attention.